False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, staff writer at fanside.com. I'm joined today by a man who knows how to make good decisions, who believes that Torn by Natalie and Bruglia is an absolute banger, and did not have to stay up until 11:45 to watch my favorite football team lose because it was 9:45 where he's living at right now. Cody Williams, content director, fanside.com. How the hell are you?
I was about to say I didn't have to, but I did do it, and that was a thing that definitely did happen. But I'm doing good, man. Told you I'm somehow got to New Mexico, and I'm feeling a little more under the weather than I was in North Carolina. So that's fun. But I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. We got the Arizona State podcast brothers, so the ASPB is here, and we are where the enemy sleeps in my bedroom and everything like that. This is her side of the bed. Mine's over there. You don't have to know what that looks like, but it's a bunch of just cute things. So like a whole like
Oh yeah, precious stuff.
yeah, it's so many precious memories and cards and just ridiculous. But yes, there's like a lava lamp over there and the eye thing, whatever
Oh
that
yeah,
is.
yeah. I know what you're talking about. No idea what it's
Mm.
called. Know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't either, but we're here shortly before the start of the new year. So obviously this is Monday, December 30th, 2024. Got 2 more days. Get paid tomorrow. And
Hmm.
then it's gonna be the longest day of my life going to the Peach Bowl and then working afterwards and then coming to you guys semi-live with 3 yards in a cloud of punt after the Sugar Bowl where my dogs are playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and it's gonna be a day.
Dude, 100%. If I had the energy in me, if I wasn't back in New Mexico and it wasn't super early, I would have started barking into the microphone just on your behalf, but I didn't do it.
That's what Gunnar Stockton does. I mean, I think the
100%.
the guy definitely has outdoor dogs.
Oh, he's got outdoor, indoor. He's just got dogs, man. Dogs everywhere.
Spike is one. Smoke
Spike. They're all SP. It's like Spike, Spot, Spitty. We're just keeping on going with SPs.
and Spock because you kind of have to be a nerd to go to Georgia. So yeah,
100%. Yeah.
live long and prosper here. Yes, obviously we have false started here a little bit this morning. Here we're going to start with our first and 15 of playoffs. You kidding me? So we've got the four quarterfinal games going on this weekend. We've got the Fiesta Bowl between number three Boise State and Penn State on New Year's Eve evening, and then we've got three games on New Year's Day. I think those are the only games on New Year's Day because it's a Wednesday.
Hmm.
So you got number four Arizona State playing number five Texas in the Peach Bowl. I will be at that game. Then after that,
Hmm.
you got the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, in a rematch from the regular season with number one Oregon versus number eight Ohio State. And then the Sugar Bowl at about 9 o'clock Eastern between number two Georgia and number seven Notre Dame. So let's just kind of work our way through these games. I'll say the line and eventually we'll pick a game. So let's start with the Fiesta Bowl.
Hmm.
Number six Penn State is laying 11 and a half points to the Broncos. For my money, this is the easiest one to pick. It's going to be Penn State, barring some James Franklin catastrophe, but he doesn't lose to teams that he should beat.
No, 100%. I see this one playing out very similar to the SMU game where Penn State can just kind of overwhelm Boise State in a lot of ways. Like you look into the numbers, and we know what Boise State wants to do. We know they want to run the offense through Ashton Genty and let that control the game. Well, Penn State happens to be the sixth best team in terms of EPA per rush allowed this year. So like this is a different level of athlete. And like to be clear, we're talking about a Penn State team that plays in the Big Ten. This isn't the first run like rushing based offense that they're seeing this year. That's Big
Right.
Ten football, baby. Like this is a game plan they are prepared for. It's a game plan where if you make Maddox Matson beat you in your Penn State, you're heading in a good direction. And I think that's what they do, and I think that they have a lot of success doing that. The other thing that stood out from the SMU game is I thought the offense played fine. It didn't play like out of this world. I think that again in this game, I don't think they necessarily have to do that. I think that we're probably going to see maybe not a defensive score, but the defense set up Penn State with some really short fields at least multiple times in this game. And I don't know, man. It just feels like a real uphill climb for Boise State to get there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than the SMU game.
Yeah.
Look, I think Maddox Madsen's been hearing a bunch of stuff all postseason long. Like you can't do this. And he's gotten better with every
Mhm.
game. Clearly, Spencer Danielson made the right choice to go with him over Malachi Nelson living in the portal with Bear. Just I think if you go to USC, you just major in portal
Oh yeah,
hamstrings.
100%. Yeah, I mean, if we're finding that out this offseason, shouts to Lincoln Riley for his roster retention.
We don't care about school. We don't care about anything but throwing the football. But I think that like Maddox Madsen will play well. He'll play better than Kevin Jennings did. He'll play better than Curtis Rourke did. Maybe it's like a Klubnickian effort, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the Penn State defense with Tom Allen, who I'm legitimately shocked is not a head coach right now.
Mhm.
It seems as though like the coaching carousel is kind of stalled. With the last one was Charles Kelly taking over Jacksonville State. Like we still have like 3 or 4 openings if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a few openings. I do wonder. I mean, so and it's weird because the openings are not high profile, but I wonder if we're looking at some lower level assistance from some of these college football playoff programs being poached to those jobs, kind of in a
Right.
Fran Brown type of mold, where you take someone from who maybe isn't a coordinator, but maybe is a running backs coach or a wide receivers coach or a DBs coach, and you're taking a gamble on him at a G5 program. I wonder if that's kind of where we're heading. I also, I don't think that Ryan Day's job is necessarily secure yet. And like, if that's a big domino that's going to fall, maybe someone's holding out hope for a Brian Hartline or a Chip Kelly that they can make a move there. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with a lot of these situations.
So you're saying with some of these like lower level jobs that are still opening, you're looking at like essentially the Marcus Arroyos, the
Mm-hmm.
uh, Nick Kwiatkowski, Nick or Pete Kwiatkowski, yes,
Kwiatkowski, yeah.
Glenn Strim and Andy Koldnecki, people like that are still very much Dirk Cutter, if you will, like that,
Yeah.
people that are still out there like that.
And even like position coaches, not even necessarily coordinators, like because I think that we saw Fran Brown like at a if you know how the program works, yeah, you're to a G5 program, like Fran Brown obviously knew how Georgia had their success. He was a big part of their success in recruiting and everything like that and building a program. So looking at someone at a Georgia, at a Texas, at a Notre Dame, at Ohio State, at an Oregon, and poaching an assistant of that level, that's something that would be attractive to me if I were running a G5 program.
Yeah, like AJ Milway is a perfect
Hmm.
example. Al Golden's more of a coordinator, but like again, he seems like he's ready to be a head coach again after sweating through his button-down shirt in Miami.
Hey, look, people always gave him a lot of hell for that. I would do this. I would be doing the same thing, brother. You can't have me in long sleeves in humid, hot weather. I will die.
I would just dress like Jeff Lebby on the sidelines, just PFGing around, dude.
I mean, I'm not joking when I say that I would probably be dressing like Biff Poggi. Like that's what I would have to dress like just for my personal health.
You got to survive and thrive, but that's not going to be the case for Boise State. I've got the Nittany Lions winning 31-14.
Okay, so we're in the same ballpark. I have it 34-17, so same like roughly the same margin of victory, but like all in all, like I think Boise State doesn't get blown out of the building, much like SMU did. Like I don't think it's out of hand quickly, but I think it's a slow bleed. Like you have a cut, they cut the femoral artery, and they're just slowly bleeding out.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. But let's move on to the Peach Bowl, the game that I'm semi-emotionally invested in. Yes, Texas is laying 12 and a half in Atlanta to Arizona State. Um, you could say the whole, Arizona State's not going to be ready to play early. Well, it's going to be what, 10 o'clock a.m. local
Mhm.
time kick, and then they slaughtered Iowa State in the Big 12 championship playing in the early a.m. For as much as I for as much as I want Arizona State to do it, I think that there's only really one way they can do it, which is just like Cam Scottaboo just taking over, and it would require like Ewers to throw like 3 picks or something like that, or Arch to fumble the ball. Like there'd have to be a lot to go wrong for Texas not to win, but I think Arizona State does keep it close for a while.
Yeah, I think Arizona State keeps it close. I would say probably for about the first half, maybe the first quarter, but like I think that they keep it relatively respectable early. But the two things that really stand out to me that are going to make this an uphill climb for Arizona State, first off, is I mean, just the Texas defense in its entirety. Like their run defense is the worst part, but if that's the worst part and you rank 10th in the country in run yards allowed per game, like you're doing pretty good. And like we know that Arizona State wants to run with Cam Scatterbo. That's the heartbeat of their offense. I do like Sam Levitt quite a bit, but I do think that without Jordan Tyson in this offense, the passing game just really takes a hit. Like you think back to the Big 12 championship game, Sam Levitt didn't have to throw the ball. Like he did a little bit, but I mean, like in terms of like make a big play, make a big throw where the game is on the line, hanging on your arm, he didn't have to do any of that. And without Jordan Tyson in this offense, I really worry about his ability to do that, especially against Texas's coverage unit, which Texas coverage unit is one of the best in the country, and you don't really have a difference maker without Tyson on that field. So I worry that they're going to be able to move the ball. And then on the flip side of that, like Arizona State's defense has played well. I don't know if they're going to be able to get pressure. I think going back to what you said, the only way I really see Arizona State's defense having a ton of success is self-inflicted wounds from Texas.
I mean that could happen, but it's like the reason Arizona State slaughtered Iowa State is because Iowa State's kind of built like Notre Dame, where there's a lack of speed and depth out on the perimeter, and because Scottaboo could basically get whatever he wanted on the ground, it kind of snowballed. There was the turnovers there from Rocco Peck, etc. Also, I think it's Gilroy, the other receiver,
Mm-hmm.
Gilderoy Lockhart. Yes,
Gilderoy Lockhart, yes.
he's the guy who played him is somebody else in a movie that I saw.
Oh,
That's
dude,
like
he's a ton, dude. He's a I'm totally blanking on his Kenneth Branagh. And he directs a bunch of stuff. He's Hercule Poirot from the Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and all those movies. He's in a bunch of stuff, dude.
he was in something like he played something like a guy played he put like a bald cap on or something like that. I'm like, who the heck is this? But I didn't also realize Alan Rickman, his first cinematic feature was Die Hard.
Yeah, at 42, man, got into the game late. I mean, he had been a stage actor for a long time before that, but I use that trivia question every Christmas with people who don't know.
Yeah, I know. Nakatomi Plaza. I mean, it's on the ground now, like Edward Blake's face,
That's right.
or Samuel L. Jackson and Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Aim for the bushes,
The
baby.
bushes. But I'm doing an emo hedge here. Obviously, I want Arizona State to win, but I'm gonna take Texas winning something like 30-27.
Okay, so I think Texas pulls away a little bit more than that. I'm going Texas 28, Arizona State 17. Like that's kind of where I see this one settling down. I just think that Texas has the ability to keep Arizona State kind of at arm's length. I don't think Texas is necessarily interested, frankly, in blowing a team out like that. I think that it's more, we get that lead and you have the defense to kind of just sit on it.
Yeah, you're playing like essentially the microwave version of Clemson because of the portal. So if they can beat Clemson, this is Clemson and Arizona State are very similar.
Yeah, 100%. And I keep coming back to a quote I've been thinking a lot about, which we'll get to this game in a second, but after the Indiana game, Al Golden was asked about Indiana, having some fourth quarter offensive success and finding some stuff late in that game in garbage time when it was already out of reach. And they asked Al Golden if he was worried about that, and he said, "Absolutely not." He goes, "We weren't going to show them anything that we had planned defensively when the game was already decided. We were just packed it in." And I can see Texas absolutely doing that when you have a matchup with either Oregon or Ohio State on deck. You want to keep whatever bullets in the chamber that you have to keep in the bag, you want to keep them there.
Right there with you. So let's move on to the granddaddy of them all. This was the hardest game for me to pick. It was
Oh yeah.
I believe it's Ohio State's laying, I think, 2.5 now.
Hmm.
So it's going back and forth. It's like, do I really trust Ohio State or do I think Oregon comes out flat? It's going to be one of those two, and it's going to be very obvious from the first quarter who's going to win that game. That's the biggest feeling I have right now. It's going to be like, oh, this is not their day.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting because looking back at I watched kind of like a one of those like condensed games of the first time that these two played, and a lot of what we saw in that game, I don't think is going to be like fixed. Like, I don't know if there's adjustments to be made to fix what we saw in that game from either team because I think they just took advantage of the matchups that favor one another. And like those matchup advantages still exist. Like, Ohio State secondary wasn't tested by that, like, because Tennessee doesn't have the level of athlete at wide receiver that you need to compete in the college football playoff to compete at this level. Oregon has those guys. Oregon has an Evan Stewart. Oregon has a Tez Johnson. And the Ohio State DBs, Caleb Downs is phenomenal at safety, but in terms of their corners, like Denzel Burke is not the player that we once thought he was. He's not going to be a first round pick. The guy on the other side whose name I can't pronounce, he's going to be in the NFL, but he's not going to be a high draft pick. Like you're not talking about the elite corners that we've seen in Ohio State of years past. So like I do think that Oregon is going to be able to have success there. I also believe that Ohio State's wide receivers are going to be able to have success. Like I think the Oregon secondary is of a really good defense, the weakest part of that defense as well. So I think we just see a lot of plays. But when I start to think more about that, the thing that I really keep coming back to is two things. One, I have more faith in the Oregon offensive line than I do the Ohio State offensive line against really good defensive fronts, which I think are probably a wash. So I'm going to take the offensive line that I trust a little bit more in Oregon. I'm going to take the quarterback I trust a little bit more, which I don't trust him with my whole heart and with my whole life, but I trust Dylan Gabriel more than I do Will Howard.
I feel you. I'm on the other side of this, man. I'm
Okay.
leaning Ohio State. I feel that the biggest difference is the pass rush for Ohio State.
Okay.
I feel they have the momentum. I feel that like Oregon's going to be has the potential to come in flat here. They've not had adversity. They got to kick it up a notch and everything like that. Um, Again, if Jack Sawyer and JTT play up to their potential, and if Downs plays like the best defensive back in college football, which he is,
Yeah.
that's what he's all about.
Yeah.
Then you got the ability to be +2 in turnover margin, and that would probably be the difference here. I do think though, if Dylan Gabriel throws for like 300 yards, it's going to be very difficult for Will Howard to keep pace with him. So
Yeah, I'm with you. I understand the issues that the Ohio State pass rush can levy there. I do think that Oregon has the ability to poke and prod with the run game. Like they have so many. Like one thing I love about Oregon's backfield is they have three different types of running backs, and so like you can really poke and prod and see what's working with Jordan James, Whittington, and all these guys. You can also get Tez Johnson involved in some creative touches and stuff. So like I. I'm excited. Like I don't think this is reinventing the wheel. This is the game I'm most excited for in the quarterfinals. Like this is going to be a great game. It was a great game the first time around. So like I'm excited for the rematch. I'm excited to see what adjustments can and will be made. I just come down on the fact that I think Oregon is a better team. And the other thing and maybe this is unfair to Ryan Day, but I don't like the idea of Ryan Day having a rematch against someone that beat him already. Because I think when I look at what he's done against Michigan, I think he gets in his head about that and almost gets a little stubborn with, okay, we get into these Michigan games. I'm just going to bang my head against the wall for 60 minutes because I want to prove that we're tougher than Michigan. Well, if he goes out and he tries to prove, okay, we're a better passing offense than Oregon, you're going to lose that battle. You are going to lose that battle. I understand the wide receivers, but you have a disadvantage at quarterback and you're going up against a defense that is better than what you saw at Tennessee. So like I worry about what Ryan Day is going to do in this game.
I mean, there's also the Chip Kelly factor too.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'm on the other side of this with you. I'm going to take Ohio State winning quite comfortably. They're going to win 35-24.
Okay, so I'm on the other side. I'm going to take Oregon winning 38-35. So we both have Ohio State scoring 35. I just think they have less answers for Oregon.
That's fair. But yeah, I thought the line there was crazy. So that was the hardest game for me to pick. We're moving on to the game that I care the most about, the Sugar Bowl with number two, Georgia leg 1.5 to number seven, Notre Dame. I've done the emo hedge versus Georgia, but I can't. Like I have to
Yeah.
go all in on Georgia here. I don't think it matters that much that backs out. I think that the offense showed a little bit more. Around here with Counting Crows. I think people have just kind of gotten tired of Beck in some capacity. It's just like, they kind of feel of him being, it's made fair or not, they kind of feel that like he's affluent and everything like that. Like his daddy owns all the car dealerships down in Duval or something like that. So in the gutter stock and just the guy who's like, I'm wearing a raccoon hat out there, doing just a little more country strong a little bit. And I don't know their socioeconomic backgrounds, but like again, this is Bobo's guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whereas Beck has made it work with Bobo, but he was a Monken recruit.
Right. No, I mean like I'm with you. I'm trying to what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to keep my expectations in check. I can't think of the word I was actually looking for. Temper. I'm trying to temper my expectations. There we go. But I'm trying to temper my expectations for like what the actual ceiling is with Stockton because I do think the lack of experience, like there is a defined ceiling when you go to that, and like that's the one thing that you're going to be missing with Beck is the experience. But I do like we talked about it, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but a simplified offense is what this Georgia offense needs right now. Like I don't think you have a good wide receiver core. You don't have a great wide receiver core. You have very good running backs. I don't think you necessarily have great running backs at this point. You have an offensive line that's had to shuffle some pieces around this year. So like I think simplifying things is going to be good for everyone. The other thing, like when Gunnar Stockton came into the SEC championship game, the offense rallied around him. It looked like they found an extra gear that they were looking for. And I also think we saw it on the defense. The defense rallied around him. And that's where I keep coming back to for this game is I think Riley Leonard is going to have a bad time. Like that's just what I come down to. Like this, I don't think Notre Dame has faced many pass rushes that
Yeah.
have the ceiling that Georgia does. I don't think that Notre Dame has faced many defenses that have the speed at linebacker that they do. I just don't think that Notre Dame can keep up with the team speed. We were talking during the first round Notre Dame game between Indiana, and you messaged me and you said, I don't, I just don't see a whole lot of juice with this Notre Dame team. I think Notre Dame is experienced, and I think that's one of the reasons that they're at this point. But I think that they're also experienced because a lot of these guys do not have that next level juice that's going to make you, a top level draft pick immediately. Like, and the one guy on defense that did have that was Benjamin Morrison. In terms of draft eligible guys, and he's not playing in this game because he's injured. So, like, I just think the lack of juice is very evident. However, I do think this is a low scoring game. Like, I don't think that if we're simplifying the offense and we're relying on our defense, I think the last thing Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo want is for Gunnar Stockton to get into a shootout. I think that we see them lean on the defense and just kind of try to sit on this one as best they can, which I think they're going to be able to have success to because I still don't trust Riley Leonard throwing the football. And if you're going to have a very one-dimensional offense against a Georgia defense, that's going to work pretty badly for you.
Well, yeah, I go back to this. So, like, if Dalen Everett can pick off Quinn Ewers all the time, Malachi Starks is due for like a big play. I think that there's a chance that Lillard may have to throw it. Jeremiah Love will get his yards, but
Oh yeah.
the Georgia's two best things this team is their defensive line and probably their special teams. Is
Yeah.
really although Thorson might be hurt or whatever, but again, kicking is a liability for Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and that could be an issue as well. I just think that the speed's too much. I think as long as Georgia can play within itself on an offensive line, they can run the ball effectively with Trevor Etienne, Nate Frazier, and company. Like they'll be fine. Gunnar Stockton coming down the mountain like he's Jane's Addiction. Do 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 do.
Shouts Dave Navarro.
Dave Navarro, he was in Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He was, yes. A brief stint. He couldn't
Ba
handle
ba ba ba.
it.
And like pleasure is spiked with playing. This game is my era of playing. I am taking Georgia 23, Notre Dame 18.
Okay, so I'm going even lower scoring than that. I'm going Georgia 20, Notre Dame 13. Like I think that Georgia wants to turn this into a rock fight because they are better suited for a rock fight.
And then, for as good as defensive minds as Marcus Freeman and Al Golden is, Kirby's got T-Rob, T-Rob, he's got Schumann, they got a lot of dudes. Dante Williams, who's probably going to
Mhm.
get us Zachariah Branch we'll talk about him a little bit, but like, yeah, I think it's going to be very low scoring. It's going to be like the Herschel Walker game except he's not going to like put his own shoulder back into place.
And hopefully not as many of the post playing career Herschel Walker either.
No, no, no. There will be New Jersey Generals in this game.
That's right.
So we'll recap here. We both have Penn State winning and covering the Fiesta Bowl.
Mhm.
I believe we have in the Peach Bowl, we have Texas winning, but Arizona State covering, I think, for
Mhm.
both of us. Uh,
What's the line's at 11 and a half, right? Or 10 and a
yeah,
half?
I think it's 11 and a half is what I
Yeah,
had.
I had Texas by 11, so barely covering.
Barely covering. You've got Oregon winning and covering, and I've got Ohio State winning covering, and then we both got Georgia winning and covering.
Yeah, and the under in the Georgia game is where I really like.
I, As do I. So that's great with playoffs. You're kidding me. Let's move on to some I'm trying, Jennifer.
Mhm.
Yes, couldn't figure it out necessarily what Seki we wanted to do for this. It's hard. You can't do playoffs. You kidding me for like three of them in a row.
Yeah, I
So
know.
trying to fill out the show. This is Cody's brainchild. So let's take the floor.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been thinking about is looking forward and looking at these programs in terms of sustainability and how, like of these programs, like we look at the names on the helmets and the jerseys, and you look at an Oregon, you look at an Ohio State, you look at Georgia, you look at Texas, you look at Penn State, and these are teams that you would expect to see in the playoff conversation every year. But we also just saw Alabama, who made the 14 playoff a year ago, miss out on the playoffs. So chances are one of these quarterfinal teams is not going to be in the playoff next year. I'm going to exclude Boise State and Arizona State from this conversation because I think as the G5 and the Big 12 champions, like there's a little bit more volatility that goes into that. So like I don't think that's a fair inclusion in this conversation. So of the other six teams, I'll let you start, Bueller. Who do you think is the least likely or sorry, most likely, I guess is the best way to say it, most likely to miss the playoff next year?
This was very difficult. I was going back and forth on this. I don't think it's Penn State. I think that
Yeah,
they're rolling. Again, Ohio State and Oregon seemed like they've got the infrastructure too, as does Texas. So it came down to Georgia and Notre Dame, and I settled with Notre Dame for two reasons.
hit me.
Well, three reasons. So number one, with Georgia, I feel if it's Stockton, you're going to have a team playing a little bit more like it was with Stetson Bennett, where it's like
Mhm.
the 21 team just won with defense as the quarterback tried to figure it out. And that's why 22 is such a juggernaut because Bennett and everything was going there with McConkey and Bowers. So you could see them having a new identity. Okay, we got to win more defensively. And I think that's been an issue with Beck is like Beck's so immensely talented. It
Mhm.
kind of basically makes the defense not have to play up to the standard. So that's one. I think the other part of it too with Notre Dame is like, look, you don't play in a conference. So if you lose twice two games next year, you're not making it 10-2. It's just not
Yeah.
happening. And then the other thing I saw, I believe Marcus Freeman has said that Notre Dame is not going to be pursuing a quarterback in the transfer portal after doing that with Sam Hartman and then with Riley Leonard this next year. I think that we may see quarterback regression considerably.
Mhm.
And I just kind of feel that like all things equal, if Georgia goes 10-2 next year, Notre Dame goes 10-2 next year, Georgia will get in over Notre Dame. Plus, Georgia gets a much more navigable schedule. Alabama's at home. Ole Miss is at home. Yeah, you got to play in Knoxville, but like the SEC schedule inverts a little bit. Auburn will be better. That'll suck, but like, but again, you have that. I think you have that at home. No, it doesn't matter. But like, I ultimately came down to Georgia because Georgia gets in over Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is the team because the conference quarterback change. Yeah, that's kind of where I got with that.
So I came down to the same two teams, except I also had Texas in there just because, like, I do think Arch Manning is good, but you are most likely going to have a quarterback change at Texas. So that there's a little bit of variability in there. I ended up going with Georgia, and the biggest reason was the improvement that we're going to see in the SEC, particularly in the middle class next year. And like I think that and I will say, like with Texas, I trust the infrastructure a lot. Their schedule next year is daunting. They start the season with Ohio State. Like, they started it with or they had it Michigan early last season. Well, that's Ohio State next year. So like Texas has that non-con game. You play at Georgia. You play at Florida, which Florida, who we expect to be a lot better team than they were this year. Like if Oklahoma is better with John Mateer, like there are challenges on this Texas schedule that they didn't necessarily have to face this year. So we don't know what a daunting SEC schedule really looks like for Texas based on what we saw this year. So I do worry about Texas, but with Georgia, I think there are vast improvements needed in the wide receiver core that I'm not sure that they've made yet. They could. It seems like they might be trending that way, but we're not there yet. And so like I do think that I have those questions, especially with Beck declaring for the NFL draft. Like, what are we going to do at quarterback? Is it going to be Gunnar Stockton for a full season? How high does that make your ceiling and stuff like that? And then you throw in the improvements of the SC. I expect Florida to be better. I expect Auburn to be a lot better. Like I expect all of these teams to take a very meaningful step forward and really increase what was already like Georgia's schedule is not going to be the gauntlet that they had to run this year next year, but I do think it's still going to be tougher than like if they had next year's schedule this year, like I think it's going to be a lot tougher next year than it would have been this year. So like I look at that and I look at the SEC and I look at the attrition, I don't know. I think Georgia has enough questions combined with the SEC to put me in that spot.
It was really close, and
Yeah.
I nearly went there. But like I was sitting there thinking about it, they were on the same page. Like of the three teams that made the playoff of the SEC, the one I'm most confident making next year is Tennessee.
Yeah, weirdly enough, yes, because I like you made the playoff with Nico ostensibly playing poorly for most of the
Yeah.
season. And like even if Nico never lives up to his potential, there's going to be improvements. He's going to be better than he was a year ago. So like I don't have a lot of worries about Tennessee not being able to replicate this. Like, yes, they're going to lose some guys on defense to the NFL draft up front. The dirty secret about Tennessee is that they rotated like six guys
Yeah.
on the interior defensive front and like five guys on the edge. So like they're fine. They have the depth to be able to continue doing that. And if the offense takes a step forward, like Tennessee, I think is going to be dangerous again.
So I've got to talk about this, and then we'll talk about some Big Ten of it all.
Mhm.
So let's just say the SEC gets four next year. I feel like three was kind of like that was an outlier. It's going to be pretty much four most years. I
Yeah.
feel so. If we feel very confident that Tennessee is one of them, let's just put two other teams in there ahead of Georgia and Texas. So they're duking out for the last spot. Like, who are other teams? I think LSU could have a fantastic year,
Hmm.
and I'm really high in Florida. That's the other one that I'm up there with too. I think Ole Miss pulls back, particularly with Jackson Dart turning pro.
Hmm.
We'll see what Mizzou does with Bo Pribula, but again, I've had A&M might be really good.
And Alabama, let's not forget Alabama as well. Like
Alabama,
Alabama, who didn't make the playoff. Like it seems like we're trending towards Jalen Milrow returning as of right now, based on reading the tea leaves.
and then South Carolina with Lenore Sellers, they'll be back again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the SEC is loaded next year, dude. It's not going to be a fun league to play in.
I'm trying to think like who's like definitively going to be bad. Kentucky's going to be bad. Brock Vandegrift are retired, pouring out.
Pour one out, indeed. One year of a Kentucky, and he was like, "I'm done with this ass."
I mean, I think Arkansas might be pretty bad next year.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. They feel I can't remember who I was comparing to Dave Aranda, but Sam Pittman might be or sorry, Neil Brown. Sam Pittman might be this year's Neil Brown, where he saved his job. I said Dave Aranda was going to be Neil Brown, but I think Sam Pittman is in that category as well, where you save your job one year, then the next year you come back and it's like, all right, brother, we can't do this again.
He has the dead cat bounce, but he belly flopped in the pool and just went back up.
Saved by the rack of ribs.
Yes, sir. But then like you go to the Big Ten, like the fact that like none of us considered Ohio State, Penn State, or Oregon, I think that's a testament to just how soft the middle of the Big Ten is. Like we think Indiana, like with Fernando Mendoza, like could be that good again next year. Um, Illinois could be really good, but Luke Altmaier is pretty much run out of eligibility. We'll see
Mhm.
what happens with Nebraska and Dylan Raiola. We don't really know like who else like emerges out of the Big Ten that's like going to be challenging those four teams.
I guess it really depends on what you think the Michigan timeline looks like. Because
Yeah,
like that and like I'm personally and I can I reserve the right to change my opinion as the off season goes on and as I see things, hear things, watch things. But as of right now, I think we might be a year away from seeing Michigan in the playoff conversation.
yeah,
But I can't rule out the possibility that they immediately insert themselves into that mix.
yeah. Michigan's there. Minnesota could be too.
Yeah.
Illinois. I don't trust
But
Michigan State. I don't trust Rutgers. I don't trust Maryland.
I don't either. And I think my big thing is I think all of these teams are competing with Indiana for like a fourth spot in the playoff. I don't think we're necessarily in a position where these teams are going to usurp a Penn State or going to usurp Oregon or going to usurp Ohio State. Like I just don't, I think we're talking about like replacing one spot. And so the three teams that are in the quarterfinals, like I think are pretty safe.
100%, yeah. Then a Texas and Georgia, it's Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame are like on its own. Like it's just a precipitous fall off, and probably I would say the most likely of the four of the three Notre Dame, three Big Ten to probably fall out would honestly be Oregon.
Yeah.
I feel like they're probably losing more
Yeah, I
than
mean,
Penn.
you have questions at quarterback. Like
Mhm.
Dante Moore was a highly rated recruit, but we don't know that Dante Moore is going to come in and be good. We don't know that for a fact.
No, but like with Jan Lanning, like they're gonna go at least 10-2 and they'll be in the mix. And if you're 10-2
Yeah.
in the Big Ten, you're gonna make the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm very confident that Oregon will make the playoff, but like of those three, yeah, they definitely have the most questions.
You know, whenever I call Jay Lanning up on the phone, he always says one word to me: "Talk Portal to me." Let's
That's
move on to our
right.
next topic. Yes,
He loves talking Portal, man.
Portal Dan.
Portal Dan.
Not a lot of movement here. Really, two big names have signed, and there's three that are kind of like still out there. So, North Carolina State wide receiver KC Concepcion went to Texas A&M like you pretty much forecasted. He said
Mhm.
like they were in on him there for a while. I think that's a fantastic pickup for the Aggies with Marcel Reed coming back, and it's looking like it's going to be his team. Because again, it's a schedule flips in the SEC.
Mhm.
A&M could probably go 10 and 2 and make the playoff. I feel pretty confident that they're going to be in the mix next year.
No, 100%. I mean, I do think we need to see Marcel Reed take some steps forward as a passer for that to come to fruition. I think he's capable of it. I think he has nice arm strength. He has a nice arm. It's just a little erratic right now. But you know what really helps a young quarterback develop is a wide receiver like KC Concepcion.
Yeah.
Like that'll help you quite a bit. So I really like that. And I mean, it's just another feather in Mike Elko's cap because like we were high on the hire. I like the way he builds a roster, and I'm just seeing more of that right now.
I mean, did it ever occur to you because he's at Duke for 2 years, like if he kind of knew what was going on? Granted, they were in opposite divisions, but like maybe kind of being like essentially in the triangle, you're kind of like, okay, I know what's going on there in Raleigh potentially. Maybe
Oh,
he earmarked that.
I mean, it's entirely possible. Like that's, separated by what, like 12, 15 miles. Like you're not far away, Durham and Raleigh. So like there's definitely something probably to that. Like even if he wasn't in direct contact with NC State, like people who know people in that area. Like everyone in the triangle knows everybody in the college football world.
So yeah, you're from North Carolina, and your wife went to NC State. So correct me if I'm wrong. Like I know North Carolina and Chapel Hill are separated by 7 miles, and Raleigh is a little bit further south. So it's like an isosceles like this.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's a goofy looking triangle. The fact that it's called the triangle, like someone had to do some real math. It's like you've got Durham and Chapel Hill right here, and then Raleigh's here, so it's like that.
Okay, so but it does it is a triangle because it's only three different places. Like we can make the pieces fit.
We can do it. I promise.
Oh yeah, at Dark Horse Karaoke they played for him the Bell Tolls, and it was unbelievable.
Incredible stuff.
Yes, the guitar player was just like was just doing his best Kirk Hammett out there. Do 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 do. But yes, the bassist was not as good as Cliff Burton. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. Cliff, man.
He was wearing a denim tuxedo though.
Hey, you know what? You gotta sell yourself, and that's one way to do it.
They don't make bell bottom jeans like that anymore. But that's neither here nor there. So we like Casey Concepcion there. I think he's like wide receiver five, entering the transfer portal, goes to A&M, kind of like we forecasted. That's good. The number nine quarterback, I believe it's yes, Walker White goes from Auburn to Baylor. Number one, I didn't know he was on Auburn's team. Two, it seems as though he's replacing DeQuan Finn because it seems like it's Sawyer Robinson's kind of got the job there though. I like this as well. This is an opportunity for Baylor to potentially sustain to prevent this from being a dead cat bounce. I guess we kind of overlooked the fact that just quarterback instability was such an issue for them in the first half of the year.
No, it definitely was, and I also like my first thought when I saw Walker White committing to Baylor was, oh God, I might be really wrong with all my negative Dave Aranda takes, like moving forward, like that this year was the anomaly that the dead cat bounce is going to come back to the ground and it's not bouncing back up. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I do think it raises the sustainability. Like you have Sawyer Robertson for at least another year. You get Walker White, who, frankly, the fact that he wasn't playing over Peyton Thorne tells me that he's probably not ready. So he probably does need some development, some time to sit behind Sawyer Robertson. But I think it's a really good spot for him because Sawyer Robertson's another guy who developed, like who got better and became the player that he is now, a player that, led Baylor to a bowl game. So like I think it's a good contingency plan to have for the long term if you're Baylor.
I would agree right there. I think the thing I'm trying to figure out Dave Aranda. There's too much Zen going on in my brains. Z-E-N or Z-Y-N doesn't matter. But I think he's a really good teacher, a really good
Yeah.
defensive minded coach. I think the issue is he does not favor the offensive side of the ball, and recruitment's kind of an issue for him.
Yeah, no, recruiting is definitely something that we do need to see pick up. But I do think that one thing he has proven over the past couple years is that he's a legitimate player in the portal. And I think his like talent identification when it comes to portal ads that you want to get is quite good. Like he missed on Daquan Finn, but I don't think anyone could have predicted that it would have been as
No.
bad as it was. Like Daquan Finn was awesome at Toledo, and he seemed like a guy ready to make a leap up. So like I'm not gonna hold that against him. Like even in recruiting, you could have every like all 32 5 stars if you somehow, are Kirby Smart or Urban Meyer or whoever, and you get all 32 5 stars. Not all 32 5 stars are going to hit. Not all 32 are going to be stars. Like this is a projection business, and you're going to be wrong at least 40% of the time in the projection business.
Yeah, we tried forecasting like who's going to finish in whatever quartile in the Big Ten next or Big 12 next year. So we know like the bottom of the barrel is going to be like your Arizonas, your Cincinnati's, your UCFs.
Yeah.
And then it's very fluid. It probably might be Utah. It could be West Virginia just because they got to reboot that.
Mhm.
Maybe Baylor's closer to the top. Like I would venture to guess next year Iowa State's going to be really good.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit, but yeah, Iowa State might be the front runner as for right now.
Yeah, Iowa State, K-State, Farmageddon, man, is going to be in Dublin farming for potatoes, dude.
Dude, incredible. I mean, like the top of the Big 12 is really interesting because you have a lot returning at Kansas State as well, like you said, with Avery Johnson. Arizona State, like, yes, you're gonna lose Scatterboo, but you just got Udo from Army, who I think is a really talented running back. You have Sam Levitt returning. So like the top of the Big 12 is going to have some familiar faces, but teams like Baylor could absolutely insert themselves into that.
Oh yeah, it's completely wild all over the place. So good to get there for the Baylor Bears here. So we got three players who are still in the portal or about to be. So number one, former USC wide receiver Zachariah Branch, his brother Zion's a little bit older safety. Not much is going on here. It seems very clear that it's going to be either Arizona State, Georgia, or Oregon, that they're both going to go there. I think they're basically kind of waiting until the team is done with their playoff run, and then they'll go commit.
Yeah, like to me, it seems like that's a really good read on the situation. Like I think that I honestly I would be shocked. I don't even think it's going to take until the end of the playoff run necessarily. I think it might just be until this quarterfinal preparation is over with because you look at those, Arizona State, like all three of those teams have been preparing for 2, 3 weeks at this point. Like they didn't have a first round game. And so like I think like once you get past that preparation, it's more of a normal schedule. You have a week and a little bit of change to prepare for the semifinal games. Like I think that's when we'll see Zachariah Branch really be able to get in the building and figure out where he wants to go. But yeah, I mean, all three of those spots make sense. Arizona State close to home. I believe the Branch brothers are from Chandler, if I'm not mistaken, is where they went to high school. And then Oregon, I mean, it's Dan Lanning in the portal. We know it's going to happen. And same with Georgia. It's Kirby Smart in the portal. We know like that he's going to make a run at his guy if he wants him.
Yeah, they're from like the Southwest
Mhm.
area over there, like Arizona, Nevada, whatever. They're over there. So my thought is like the longer the Arizona State remains a player, it seems like I feel like it might be them.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I don't mean this to disparage Arizona State the way it's probably going to sound like it, but when you're comparing them to Georgia and Oregon, they're the dragon meme of the week, man. Like they
Yeah.
absolutely are. They're just sitting there and they're the derpy dragon right now. But I think it's a testament to well, obviously being close to home helps, but also like Kenny Dillingham has made Arizona State an attractive place to play. Like you listen to the way these players talk about playing at Arizona State, and it's awesome. And like Kenny Dillingham cares about his players. I don't know if you saw this a couple weeks ago, but leading up to the playoff, Kenny Dillingham was really forthright with what he was telling his players in the portal and basically saying like I want you to do whatever's best for you, but I want you to come and be upfront with me with those decisions. And I want you to tell me what those decisions are. And he goes, and I want you to stick this out. We'll stick this out. We'll play until our college football playoff run ends. And then I will do everything in my power to help find your next stop to put you in the best position. But, let's stick this out and let's go through there. And like, that's the first coach I've ever heard like really come out and say that that's his thing. Like he's like not trying to fight the portal as much as he is like trying to do what he can to put his program in the best position with the portal. And if I'm a player in this era of the transfer portal, in the era of such free movement from university to university, from program to program, like that's something that would be attractive to me.
Yeah, the fact that like he didn't play beyond high school, I think injuries cut his playing career down, but he was kind of more like the GA thing. Glenn Schumann was that way too.
Hmm.
Whereas like I think Dan Lanning played linebacker at William Jewell in Independence, Missouri.
That's
Lincoln
right.
Riley, Lincoln Riley went to one practice at Texas Tech.
Yeah, that's right. He was there one time.
Yeah, and obviously Ryan Day played quarterback at New Hampshire. Kirby played safety at Georgia. But like I think just the whole having to like really be the bottom of the coaching staff trying to figure this out, like looking for advantages. That's how he basically got here. So maybe Kenny D is a portal wizard.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. Can't rule it out just yet. He learned a
Yeah,
lot
that
in the mines.
he learned a lot in the mines. He rebuilt his pelvis out of rebar and the imperfections that the Breaker Boys pulled out.
That's right.
Watched Christmas Carol, but like there was a version of it like Charles Dickens, like how he did it. Dude, like his dad was like went to like debtor's prison, and they like at 11 years old, he's working at like a blacking factory that makes like shoe polish, and he's just like in some rat infested factory in like 1820s London.
Look, man, they were built diff back then. Absolutely built diff.
Yes, they were, man. Just depraved humanity. Just
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Charlie. Here's a rat.
That's right. It's one of the best parts of Spirited is when Will Ferrell can't remember Tiny Tim's name. He's
Oh yeah.
like, Little Larry.
Itsy Bitsy Isaac.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
we did watch it with my mom, and she thought it was great.
I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. My mom also enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't have the View from Here stuck in my head, but Christmas Morning Feeling was in my head for about
Uh,
a day.
that was in my wife's head. She was like, "Is some of this not stuck in your head?" And I was like, "Oh no, some of it is. I just don't want to say what song."
So the best part. So when Will Ferrell comes back and he comes up with his name, Roberto C. Fishman Pratt. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, is that an anagram for a Ghost of Christmas Present? And like my mom's trying to do it like on the phone asking Siri, and she's just getting the names wrong. We're having a good time that night.
Oh
It's
my God.
it's close, but it's not quite.
Not quite. But hey, maybe it's an anagram and a spoonerism. It's, the letters are a little jumbled.
And I don't know what Tacario Davis is an anagram for, but he's back in the portal. The veteran cornerback from Arizona. He went in the portal last year, withdrew once Brent Brennan and his staff came back. Um, Literally finding nothing about him. I think you had
Yeah.
a really great point off there. Why don't you expound upon that?
Yeah, so the fact that we haven't heard anything in the 2 weeks plus since Tacario Davis put his name in the portal, I mean, this is a dude who you would think that every big program would be connected to. He was a dude who, coming into the season, was projected as a first or second round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Didn't have the season that he was looking for, but 6'4" length, pretty good size. He's not like 6'4" and rail thin or anything like that. Like he's a dude that you would think a Georgia, and Alabama, a Texas, all these, big level programs would absolutely be in on. And the fact that we haven't heard anything, it makes me wonder if he is like kind of weighing his NFL draft decision. We've seen this before where Cam Ward did it and ended up going to Miami last year, but
Right.
he put his name in the portal and was, mulling his NFL draft decision at that time. I have to believe that considering we haven't heard anything about visits or interest or anything of that with a player of Davis's caliber, that has to be part of the process right now. He's weighing the NFL draft portion of the process.
I believe he's from Long Beach. So if he were to like leave U of A, like, do you go to Tempe? Do you go to ASU? Do you go to UCLA? Do you go to Oregon, UW? I don't know. I figured if he does go somewhere, it would kind of be West Coast, but it
I
could
mean,
also be all about
UW
the
would make
U.
sense. UW would
You
make a lot of sense with Jed Fish there.
Yes, and not Steve Belichick because he's in Chapel Hill now.
That's right, baby. We got the whole family.
Oh man, I hope he has like the mullet. That I think is glorious. Just
Oh,
like
absolutely, dude. I won't go off on my Steve Belichick takes just yet. We'll save that for another day.
I'm pulling for him. I think he's gonna be a fantastic college coach. I feel it. I don't know.
I love it. I'm here. I like I will. That's my TLDR version of it. Is I'm actually very very high on the hire.
I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited about this other guy that is about to get in the portal. Tennessee former five-star wide receiver Mike Matthews from Wilburn, Georgia, played in Gwinnett, like Parkview, notable thing, the alma mater of the Stinchcomb brothers, Chris Carson, and Jeff Francoeur.
Dude, Frenchie.
Frenchie. See, if Tony Romo just put that much level of prep in there, then it would be better.
Yeah, 100%. But we can't honestly, Tony Romo's like gotten flown under the radar a lot this season because Tom Brady's so damn bad at this job.
And it's just the amount of Greg Olson games I've watched this year are just it's unbelievable.
I think Greg Olson's very good at this job. Like Greg Olson actually gives you valuable insight. He preps more than Tom Brady and Tony Romo combined.
No, it's like Greg Olson's basically on that tier of like I'm trying to think who's like the best. Like Charles Davis is really
Yeah,
good.
Charles Davis.
And then obviously Troy Aikman and Chris Collinsworth are like its own separate like level.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're on a different like nothing is better than Sunday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth getting like excited about something. Like he just like he doesn't like, Romo gets excited and he starts squealing. Collinsworth just gets like he's just like had like three small batch bourbons and it's just like sitting back. He's like, oh man, oh my, this is gonna be electric. Michael Penix in his first start gets to come and put together a game-winning drive.
You know, when I was playing Florida high school football, that's kind of how I play, except but I was faster and I got decked a lot.
And then I went to Cincinnati. I don't remember my time there.
He was pretty good there for a while
Hmm.
there. Then, I don't know if I was reading about this with Collinsworth. So like apparently like his dad was his high school principal.
Oh God, that's brutal, bro. My mom was my teacher, or was a teacher at the elementary school I went with, and that was bad enough, much less the principal.
It happens, teacher mom, doctor mom.
Dude, my mom and I over the holidays were talking about. I had one teacher who I won't call out by name on this fine program in case she were to listen, but whenever I would get in trouble, rather than take me to the principal's office or the vice principal or whoever, she would go and like ask my mom what to do. And my mom was like, "This is not my job. He is not in my class. What do you want from me?"
It's like, well, this is what your mom decided. I'm going to put you in the corner, make you wear a dunce cap. That's not what she wanted me to do.
Yeah, that's not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So yeah, Mike Matthews is in the
Yeah, sorry.
portal, and Georgia would have to probably be a player for him.
Mhm.
Georgia Tech would probably have to be a player for him as well. Just trying to think locally. Maybe FSU too.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Auburn getting in there with the amount of money that they're currently spending and like relative geography. I think that would make a lot of sense. Alabama, obviously, if Auburn's involved, Alabama's probably going to be involved. But the thing with Matthews is he's still not in the portal, even though he announced that he was going to be, I believe, 2 or 3 days ago at this point. And like we've already seen Tennessee. I'm totally blanking on who it was, but some other player, former high recruit, entered the portal and they brought him back. And it seems like Tennessee's trying to do that because Matthews hasn't filed his paperwork yet. I don't think it's a Wisconsin situation where Luke Fickle's just not letting dudes in the portal. I don't know if you saw that over the weekend, but shouts to Luke Fickle, who might just be losing his mind up in Madison.
Yeah, not going to be a good time there in
No,
Madison. Yeah, just
no.
everybody was high on that one, and everybody was down at Kenny Dillingham, and look where we are 2 years in. Goes to show what do we actually know.
Yeah, I have some. I actually, Bueller, have some big portal news that just dropped while we've been on the program. Arch Manning is staying at Texas and not
Okay,
entering the transfer portal. The fact that he is announcing that, in my opinion, means that Quinn Ewers is not going to the NFL and Quinn Ewers will be hitting the transfer portal.
okay, that and the big team that we thought was Michigan State was a big player for
Mhm.
that. North Carolina is another one too.
I also would not rule out Oregon for the reasons that we've already
No,
talked about because you is Dante Moore ready? If you don't think he is, bring in Quinn Ewers. You know he only has 1 year of eligibility. You've had success with that, obviously, over the past 2 seasons with older quarterbacks coming in there. I think that would be mutually beneficial for Quinn Ewers' draft stock and for Oregon in their national title hunt.
I think also with Ewers, the fact that like, the injury concerns, it's the same thing that hurt Penix and Gabriel.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll see Gabriel be a first round pick if he has an electric playoff, but like this can benefit you for just the amount of reps. We look at how good Bo Nix has been this year.
Hmm.
Doesn't hurt, but like the amount of starts he had, he was ready and he could handle anything that Sean Payton threw his way. I think that people kind of that's the one thing that I go back to with all these quarterbacks succeeding or failing. Like just the amount of starts you have to
Hmm.
have that. It's so important. And like, yours is about there, but again, the stock's been depreciated. Maybe he can elevate himself in other opportunities. So yeah, that is interesting. So yeah, it seems like yours is not coming back to Texas after the next 1 to 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, like if like I and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, why would you make that announcement if you're Arch Manning if Quinn Ewers' future is the NFL? Like you that statement's not necessary if that's the case.
Because your Uncle Peyton's is a dick. That's
Well,
why
I mean,
it's
that's completely fair. Not can't rule that out either. But and like to your point though, I do think for Art, like that's something we've seen Arch Manning and the Manning family say previously is that when Arch does become the starter, which very much assuming at this point that's going to be in 2025, I don't think Arch Manning is coming out for the 2026 draft. I don't think that's going to happen because both Peyton and Eli greatly benefited from the experience that they had in college before they went to the pro level. I think the Manning family absolutely values that. And I think that they also are smart enough as a family, whether or not they're dicks or not, like they are shrewd enough to understand the idea that the modern quarterback and the way that NFL teams are failing to develop quarterbacks, the experience that you have at college is more valuable than it's ever been.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Peyton did not start right away as a freshman because he was in the same quarterback room with Baseball Hall of Famer and Colorado Rockies legend Todd Helton, and
That's
I
right.
believe and Heath Schuler was tearing it up there in Knoxville there.
Hmm.
And Eli might have started earlier because Ole Miss was kind of bad, and he got them good with David Cutcliffe and everything like that. But they Arch just played less than them through his second year of college football, so maybe that is some sort of concern for them. That's why Peyton Manning came back as
Hmm.
opposed to being the first round pick in '97 by the Jets, which I think was Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think Peyton didn't want to go to the Jets. I thought you can't rule that out either.
No, 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 you can't. You can't rule that out here. So that's some exciting stuff there with the portal. That's exciting. I'm glad we saw that coming to you semi live. But I'm gonna ask you a question next, Cody. Do Hast do Hast?
Mm,
Yes.
mm.
There has been some rumblings that the Ebenezer Scrooge of the portal, Dabo Swinney, may be interested in that. So, do Hast or do Hast? Is Dabo Swinney going to finally take the transfer portal seriously at Clemson?
I'm going to go do Host with one S, but with a caveat, because I think that we're going to see him start to get there this season, but I also think there's a learning curve to this. Like I don't think that I don't think you can go cold turkey, like go from going cold turkey, we're not using the portal ever, to being a heavy portal team. Like, not only do I think that in terms of the recruitment, in terms of the, what it takes to have a tremendous portal class, like there is a learning curve there, particularly with the NIL and how that's going. But in terms of the NIL, you have to get your finances ready. That I know Clemson has a good NIL fund, but in terms of allocating that between recruiting and between the transfer portal, you have to kind of get your P's and Q's in line there and dot your T's and cross your I's. And so like I do think that it will take some time. I think next offseason is when we really see this kind of take shape and where they, as we've talked about, as you wrote for fansided.com, where we see them really follow the Texas type of mold of recruit and develop your own guys and then supplement through the portal. I think we're going to see that start a little bit this offseason, but I think we will eventually see it like be full force where Dabo just embraces this fully.
Yeah, I'm due Haas with one S as well for 3 reasons. I think the first is like you mentioned Texas and Georgia kind of do this. They recruit.
Mhm.
Clemson is a big player. It's a blue blood. It's one of the 15 biggest programs of all time. You're in a talent enough a rich state region to basically get whatever you want. Not everybody can go to Georgia. You can get there. You can get people from all over northern part of the state. So you could basically get anybody out of high school. Auburn's on that cusp. It's like top 15. They kind of need that. Whereas like the Michigan States and the Ole Misses definitely do.
Yeah.
Oregon has been able to break away from that because of the national brand. But Oregon, again, they have to recruit Northern California so much because they just don't have the players at state. So I do think that like there's a pathway there. The other thing is, I think the fact that like he's not going to be getting poached by coordinators anytime soon. Like Wes Goodwin and Garrett Riley are good to find. Like, but like there's not the whole there's not the rock star Brent Venables. There's not a Tony Elliott. There's not a Jeff Scott. There's not Billy Napier on your staff ready to kind of go. And then also the fact that Billy Napier has used this to his success
Hmm.
at Florida. Venables is doing this to keep himself alive there in Oklahoma. And I
Yeah.
think just having that, seeing that like your two biggest proteges of note, I mean, Tony Elliott's not afraid to use the portal too. Just the
Yeah.
fact that like all of them are doing it, it's like this can't be that bad. And the last part is Dabo is only going to coach at Clemson. The opportunity to go back to Alabama is probably fizzled out unless DeBoer fails, which that could happen. But again, we're still about 3 or 4 years out from that at that
Yeah.
point. And by that point, Dabo will be like 60. So like, what's the chances of that happening? So if you're going to coach for the next 5 to 7 years, you have to. You're not like at the Roy Williams era or Jim Larinaga, where like I'm at the end of it. Like I'm just not going to do this new thing, and I'm going to go out on my own terms. But like your coaching life is like if he wants to keep coaching at Clemson, there's probably pressure internally. It's like you need to get with the times, or else we're going to have to go a different direction.
Yeah. No, there absolutely has to be internal pressure because we saw, excuse me, in the first round of the college football playoff, like there are levels to this, and like Clemson just couldn't match the talent level of Texas. And a lot of that was because Texas has been able to hit the transfer portal. And you mentioned all of them, but like the proverbial like top 5 to 7 teams that we see annually in like the top 5 to 7 of the recruiting rankings, those teams are also the ones that we see connected to the biggest ads in the portal. And the biggest ads in the portal they're not going to a roster that's being entirely built through the portal. They're not doing that.
No,
They're going to join a good infrastructure and a good program that already has the talent to compete, and you might be the missing piece. Like that's what you do. And like there's no reason that Clemson can't be in that mold. Clemson is a talent like you look at all the NFL draft, like the NFL talent that came out of Clemson. Like we know that Clemson can recruit at an extremely high level and develop players and identify talent. And if you start adding the talent that they can also identify in the portal, like you're going to make a leap. And like particularly with the unknown of Florida State right now and the what I feel is a little bit of shaky footing that Miami is built on right now, because I don't think Miami is necessarily where they want to be right now. Clemson has the opportunity, if Dabo starts really taking the portal seriously, to kind of take a stranglehold of the top of the ACC.
yeah, I mean the other school that's like really into the portal is Louisville, and Louisville's got up a lot of market share with that.
Mhm.
And there's another high quality coach there in Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
I go back to like the loss to Texas, and like this was the moment that it opened Dabo's eyes.
Hmm.
Maybe the losing to Palmetto to South Carolina helped
Yeah.
do that, but sitting here, it's like, okay, we had made the playoffs in like 3 years. We go in, oh, we're the 12 seed. We're actually ranked 16.
Hmm.
We're in here by the skin of our teeth. Here's a program that we compete with on a national recruiting stage with Texas, and just kind of see how that all is, and just knowing that like, oh, it's not just 2 games anymore.
Hmm.
We're not going to be a top 3 seed like we always are. We're going to have to win 4 games and or three. And I think just the realization of all that was a lot for him. And I think that like people can grow, people can change. He may go back to his old ways, but this is I think this is a sign that like the final third of his coaching career at Clemson could be defined by this. I think if he does it well, he can win another national title and go out with three. But at the time
Yeah.
being right now, like he's not going to unless he embraces this.
100%. And like you bring up a really good point about like even prior to the Texas game, like how Clemson got into the playoff. Like, previously you could sell, okay, it's a 14 playoff. There's no margin for error. And like, that's kind of, an unfair system. Like if you're Dabo, that's absolutely what you're selling in those moments after not making the 14 playoff of the past few years. But when you basically have to backdoor your way into the ACC championship and then win the ACC championship to get a spot in the playoff where you would not have been really in the conversation for an at-large bid otherwise. Like you're getting in by the skin of your teeth at that point, and like those margins for like with the way college football is, that path is not always going to open up for you, and like you can't rely on that path. So you have to find something to level yourself up, and this is the most obvious solution, considering we've been telling Clemson and Dabo to do this for what 3 years now.
I know the skin of your teeth is that's your gums or your enamel. And two teams that did not get in by the skin of their teeth, that would be Iowa State and Miami. Just in the outside looking in. We're gonna move on to some good bowl with our penultimate topic here. The Pop-Tarts Bowl was everything we wanted, and then some. They've got sprinkles on the sidelines.
hmm
You got the cinnamon roll Pop-Tart like hulking out of his sleeve.
The don't forget all three Pop Tart mascots stripping uh, out of their wrapper.
Then Rocco Beck picked the cinnamon roll as the MVP of as the Pop Tarts Bowl for that. Then I saw Matt Campbell just grabs a huge handful and just shoves it in his mouth and walks off the
I
stage.
mean, just extreme Matt Campbell behavior. You'll love to see it. Let's also not forget that frosted strawberry rose from the dead, like a zombie out there. Just just absolute scenes at the Pop Tart Bowl.
Absolute saints, absolute vibes, absolutely perfect for Orlando. Just I mean the famous Idaho Potatoes Bowl with I think it was Northern Illinois and Fresno, I believe. That was
hmm
another unhinged bowl game. Then we had a Pitt Toledo going to a bunch of overtimes. So obviously we had South Florida go to overtimes too.
hmm
Just
Yeah, as someone who had the unders in both Pitt Toledo and that South Florida game, I was none too pleased to see extra football being played.
friend of the show, James, had some money on the A&M USC game. He was consulting. He was like, "So should I take A&M getting the points in the over?" And I'm like, "A&M swallowed 3.5." I'm like, yes, and it looked great. And then A&M collapsed, and he did get both legs of that parlay.
The over was a good bet though.
Oh yeah. And I guess like the other two parts with the Pop Tart Bowls is there's Iowa State component and there's a Miami component. Let's go
Mhm.
more positive with Iowa State. I think the consensus is they might be the pick to win the Big 12 next year.
Mhm.
I feel like that league could get two teams in. They were pretty close. Obviously, Matt Campbell's not going to leave. They've got Rocco Becht. I saw JJ Cole did hit the portal,
Yeah.
but Iowa State seems like a team that definitely maybe might be good. They may also wear the satin kimono, but they're going to be a team we're going to be talking about all offseason long.
No, 100%. I think you have to have them circled as the Big 12 favorites. Like there's they're going to lose stuff. Like you're going to lose Noel and Higgins on the outside, who were difference makers for Rocco Becht, but Iowa State sneakily under Matt Campbell has done a really good job at consistently producing wide receiver talent. It may not have all played out well in the NFL, but like they've had draft picks. Like you look at Hakeem Butler, who didn't do a whole lot, and there's someone else I'm totally forgetting who I believe was like a third round pick. But like they've consistently produced these guys to get on NFL radar. So like I'm not particularly worried about that. The thing that I've been worried about for a long time has been quarterback instability and the fact that you have Rocco Becht coming back for another year. I think like he's someone who just consistently impresses me. Like he didn't play well in the Big 12 championship game, but overall this season he has played extremely well. A defense that was inconsistent and he overcame a lot of that to get Iowa State even in the playoff conversation this year, in the Big 12 championship conversation this year. And the fact that you have that consistency returning when there are a lot of programs near the top of the Big 12 that do not have the same consistency. There are some, and those are the ones that we're going to be that are going to be the favorites. You talk about your Sawyer Robertson, you talk about your Avery Johnson, you talk about your Rocco Becht. Like those are the teams that we're going to be looking at. You Jake Retzlaff at BYU as well. Don't want to leave him out. But like those are probably your four favorites right now to win the Big 12, and like that quarterback consistency really elevates you, particularly in a conference that is so parity driven.
100%. I also think the fact that Rocco Becht is only a sophomore, so he's got
Mm-hmm.
2 more years here. The fact his dad played in the NFL, the fact his dad's a coach, leads me to believe that like he could be a first round pick at 27. I think
Mm-hmm.
he's got his ball when he throws it. It has like a very good I feel like it's like a lofty. It's not. It's like it lands to. It looks like a very catchable ball with enough zip on it. It seems
Yeah,
like
it's not a duck, it's just catchable. Like that, and like that sounds dumb and oversimplified, but it's true.
Russell Wilson's type of passes. That's
Hmm.
probably the best way. Touch like played like probably a lot of middle infield in high school.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's one of those things where, and the other thing that really impresses me, I'm going to nerd out just for a second with Rocco Becht is I saw the antithesis of last night, and one of the things that Michael Penix Jr. definitely needs to work on moving forward for the Falcons is Rocco Becht always puts the right angle on the ball. Like he's putting the
Yeah.
right trajectory on the ball. Penix, that's something that he needs to work on a little bit to really thrive in the NFL. He played well last night. I'm not, dogging on the guy. Just one of the things I noticed. But Rocco Becht does a really good job of understanding the situation and like what type of throw is going to be the most catchable in that type of situation. And that's something that I think goes really underrated when you're evaluating quarterbacks.
So yeah, we're high on Iowa State next year, and then Miami. The Cam Ward, he sets like I think a school record or ACC record for touchdown passes in a season or career. Yeah,
He
and
also
then
set the career touchdown pass record. He passed Case Keenum with
okay,
156.
okay, that's a big deal because Case Keenum was so good and
Yeah.
played for Houston for so long. But and then he pulls himself out in the bowl game and everything like that, and that just goes back to show like why I so question Miami. Like this was the year that it needed to happen. They were my pick to win the ACC. They finished third essentially. They were a game worse than what I thought, but it's just like it's not even the Mario Cristobal of it all. It's just kind of like at the end of the day, Miami is not going to be buttoned up like it needs to
Mhm.
in the modern age of college football. Like back in the day with like Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson, like they're just loud and proud, and Dennis Erickson, just like we're just going to out talent you. Like until we get back to that point with everybody from Dade and Brevard County going there, like you're not going to be like you don't have Georgia's players. You don't have that.
Right.
If you do, you can do that, but like now it's like you got to be a little bit more methodical and I don't know if premeditated is the word, but like you can't like how do you sell it to your players? Like some
Yeah.
guy is just getting some sort of cash grab thing there. It just seems very Lincoln Riley.
No, so you raise a good point. I want to start with Cam Ward before I get into it. Like, I don't have a problem with the kid sitting out of the game, and
No,
NFL teams are not going to have a problem with it. You're protecting millions of dollars. You wanted to set a record, and then you wanted to get out of there. Like, I don't fault Cam Ward at all for that. And anyone that does is, I think, being performative with their outrage. Like, I don't agree with it, and I don't think there's any reason to be outraged because it's about him protecting himself and making the best decision for himself. But I do think that what you're talking about absolutely exists. And when you look back at the successful, the when the U was the U back, whether that was in the 80s or the early 2000s, like I don't care what time period you're talking about, either one of those, obviously it was a different era of college football, but you had that culture that was unique to everything. Like it was swaggy, it was in your face, and it was we're better than you and we're going to show it. But you look now at all these players, you look at Michael Irvin, you look at Ed Reed, you look at all these greats that came out of Miami, they still have a ton of pride in Miami. There's a reason Michael Irvin is on the sidelines living and dying with every single Miami play that we see. They take pride in that school and in the U with this hired gun mentality that I feel like Miami currently has, that you're not going to have that. That culture is lacking. So like you're trying to replicate a lot of that. Like you see it all the time, whether it was the turnover chain years ago or whatever else, but like you see them trying to bring back the culture that the U was back in the day with Ed Reed and all these stars that they had. But nowadays, like that culture, when you're trying to have that with a hired gun mentality, you don't have the buy-in to the program, the buy-in for your teammates, the buy-in for your program. You don't necessarily have that in the same way. And like one of the things I keep coming back to is Miami has recruited at a very good level under Mario Cristobal. That's what we expect from Mario Cristobal. But at the same time, it feels like so often the very key pieces, whether that's quarterback, running back, like you look at the roster and like the key pieces that they had on this roster that got Miami to even the point of being near the ACC championship game, they weren't homegrown. They weren't guys who, bleed the U. Like outside of Xavier Restrepo, like I can't think of someone who was a key piece on this team that really like embodies what you would want in terms of building that program. And so like we talk about Clemson needing to follow the Texas and Georgia model with how they use the portal. Miami could also benefit from that as well. Whereas your main source of, quote unquote income and equity in terms of how you're building your program is recruit and develop, and then you supplement through the portal, not recruit at a high level, but then we're going to build our rosters through the portal as well.
It goes back to this. The fact that they were not even a player for Fernando Mendoza just says everything you need to know. I
Hmm.
mean, like Mario Cristobal, he's Cuban. His name is Fernando Mendoza the fifth. Like he grew up there.
Right.
Had to go play at Cal, and then goes to play Indiana because his brother Alberto is on the team. So
Hmm.
I get that. I would want to play for Coach Sig because I feel like he's going to develop me and show me
Yeah.
a lot of good things there. Feel more confident about Indiana making the playoff next year than Miami, which is like, is this basketball?
Right. So it's a weird place to be in.
But like the fact that like Miami was in on him, it was like Georgia, UCLA, Wisconsin, and Indiana, and he ultimately probably picked the best spot for him there. And all things considered, the fact that Miami like wasn't considered like he's in your backyard.
Hmm. Like I would bet he would like to come home. That would probably be really cool for him.
I mean, you're looking at maybe the first overall pick in 27. Like
Hmm.
we still don't know what Arch is going to be, but like Mendoza, we know like he's got the build and everything like that. And so the most handsome quarterback since Jimmy Garoppolo. So what a looker, dude.
Dude, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Hartman, and Fernando Mendoza, absolute heartthrobs.
100%. Speaking of absolute heart throb, I was going to finish the show with some Antonio Banderas.
Damn right we are.
Bowling, 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 bowling. So yeah, we're going to recap 3 games. We got a game coming on tap later today, and then we got 5. So we'll try to be quick with this because we got to get going. So Arkansas State beat Bowling Green in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Yeah, Antonio, he made Butch Jones blush. That was basically all I need to say.
Yeah, they are the Red Wolves, and he gave him the red cheeks. He just came up to him and he was like, he started asking Butch a lot of questions about, the Tennessee Volunteers in Knoxville. He said, "Oh, I love Tennessee Bulldog," and he goes, "There's no Bulldogs in Tennessee." And as we got deeper into the Tennessee conversation, Butch Jones started blushing because he didn't. The Tennessee days for Butch Jones were not his proudest moments.
But they had Smokies.
That's right. They did have Smokies.
Wonderful. Yeah, we got out of there. And then we went down to Birmingham Bowl with Vanderbilt winning 35-27 over Georgia Tech.
We doubted the live dog. What is our problem?
Um, we didn't consult Antonio about this. He was really upset that we picked against Live Dog and was not happy about that. So Antonio, he went out there. He was, like I said, he was dressed like Vulcan
Hmm.
with just this the mock and the exposed ass. And
That's right.
he may or may not have mooned Brent Key 4 times in the game like Randy Moss, except he did take his pants off because he wasn't wearing any.
Well, yeah, 100%. It's a lot easier for Antonio to pull that off. The other thing I noticed, I don't know if you saw the post-game picture of our boy Diego Pavia smoking the cigar in his locker. What you didn't see was right outside the frame was Antonio, who was chiefing 2 cigars at the same time because he thought that's just what you did after football games.
I know. He was like, "Where's the?" He was trying to take like the goalpost into a river, and I'm like, I don't really think that Birmingham is like. It's like Atlanta. It's just on the limestone. There's no river there. Just figure it out.
Oh, he should, he's carrying it for a while.
Yeah, no, he's carrying it up somewhere near Huntsville, and then obviously the Pop-Tart Bowl. So Antonio was in a he tried to put himself in his own sleeve, uh, but he ended up like mostly suffocating himself. But it was kind of like the pods from Spinal Tap, and he couldn't get out.
Yeah, he couldn't get out. I'm not sure. Like, there's like a non-zero chance that some of the toaster has like little bits of rubber and whatever else Antonio is made out of in it because he got a little stuck in the toaster. It happens. Also, people are freaking out again about the Cam Ward, sitting out the second half. I think that might have been Antonio's fault if I'm being really honest about it. I saw him talking to Cam Ward at halftime, and I think they might be planning a trip to Nashville, because, that might be where Cam Ward's headed after this, because the Titans might be taking him at number 2. So they're talking about Nashville, and it got a little dicey, and I think that might have been what affected Cam Ward's decision.
Camboard's like, I may be from Texas, so I kind of like country music. And Antonio's like, I just like birthday parties.
He's like, "Do you like birthday parties? Do you also like the deal of a lifetime?"
to read the list. I have to check it twice.
That's right.
Matt Campbell was not amused, and Mario Cristobal was just trying to keep Antonio away from Cam Ward, and that's probably why Miami lost.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they had like three like false start penalties in a row because they didn't snap delay a game because of Antonio.
Yeah,
Then obviously, then the land of Antonio, Iowa's playing Missouri today. Antonio is very excited about that. He again, he's wearing the exact because we do laundry, so he's wearing the exact same thing we wore to the Salute to Veterans Crampton Bowl. He's dressing like Smokey walking up and down on Broadway.
Of course he is. Of course he is. I mean, this is there's two things that Antonio's told me about. One, he's already asked me if he can go to the Children's Hospital and see Brian again. I was like, we're not going to Iowa, so no, we cannot do that. But that hasn't computed just quite yet. And then also he gets to see his good buddy Drink. And Drink I think is feeling himself a little bit after getting Bo Pribula in the portal. So we'll see what happens with the calamity that's about to ensue here.
Antonio may or may not go find the goalpost.
Yeah. Oh, always got to find the goalpost.
Yes, but the good part is we know where he's going to be. That's the best part about Nashville.
That's
He just
right.
goes up and down Broadway between Vanderbilt and the river and maybe Nissan Stadium. That's it. He doesn't venture out. He doesn't understand there's more to life in Nashville than just that strip.
No, that is Nashville. There's nothing else.
All right, that is perfect. And we got three more. We got five more coming up, and we'll get out of here. We got South Carolina versus Illinois in, I believe, the Citrus Bowl. No, that's the the Citrus
That's the Cheez-It Citrus
Citrus
Bowl.
Bowl. Jesus Citrus Bowl. The song is "Rollin', Rollin', Rollin',
Of
Rollin'," the
course it
aerated vehicle.
is.
Antonio is going to be dressing up as a vacuum because he's going to vacuum up all the Cheez-Its. That's why I wanted to go. That's
A
his
hundred
favorite
percent,
food.
dude. Hey, first off, love Cheez-Its, love the Cheez-It Bowl, now the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Great stuff. South Carolina's gonna beat the absolute piss out of Illinois in this game.
Yes, Lenore Sellers is the air raid vehicle there, and I also think Antonio might think Brett Bielema is a bulldog. That
Oh,
could actually
100%. There's no doubt. That's
like
a big bulldog right there.
Wyoming Moose Bulldog.
Father Bulldog.
Why have you forsaken me? Yes, I'm taking South Carolina there.
Who do you have in Iowa, Missouri? We didn't pick that one.
Iowa, Missouri. I think I got Iowa.
I'm going Mizzou. This game's not gonna we'll have fun with Antonio, but this game's gonna suck mostly.
That's usually the case in the Music City Bowl. It's a lot of Iowa, Kentucky, and Tennessee versus like I don't know, like Illinois or something.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, New Year's Day, Antonio is going with Rosemary and I to the Peach Bowl for the Arizona State Texas. I've already picked this game, so I have Texas, but it's rearranged. We got to put them back together. New Year, San Antonio.
New Year, San Antonio. A little dangerous that we're going to be on Broadway and in Nashville for New Year's Eve. A little scared if we'll make it to the Peach Bowl, but should be a good one. And obviously, I already have Texas in this one as well.
Yeah, he gets to hang out with Kitty D, and he really wants to touch Steve Sarkisian. I'm like, I don't think he's gonna let you, but you can try. He's like, New Year, same me.
New Year, same me. Maybe it's a New Year, new Steve.
I don't know. Then after that, on what was on a Thursday, we are going to Jacksonville for the God, what is it? The Gator Bowl.
The Gator Bowl, baby.
Duke versus Ole Miss. So we got Lane and Manny Diaz. And I'm going to go with Ole Miss 100% because I don't think Duke has a quarterback. And this
Yeah.
is Jackson Dart's last game. So this is going to be ugly.
Yeah, not seeing a quarterback on the roster for Duke that I would want to throw the football. So I think this is going to look very similar to the Florida Tulane game that we saw not too long ago, which ironically because Darian Mensah left to go to Duke from Tulane, where Ty Thompson was out there holding it together with toothpaste and gum.
Yes, and the song here is Behind Blue Eyes, which is a cover of The Who.
Yeah,
So Antonio is going to dress. Antonio's like, I'm going to dress up as Pete Townsend with the air windmill thing.
yeah.
But also on Who's Next, they pee on a monolith, and that's what he wants to do. So
Mhm.
he's going to be marking his territory in Jacksonville.
Always. You got to in Duval. I mean, that's just, that's protocol.
It's just watering the plants, man. All right, the third, we are going to Charlotte for the Duke's Mayo Bowl between Minnesota and Virginia Tech. The Limp Bizkit song is "Sour."
Ooh, yeah, yeah, it is, and it's this is going to be a sour game because Minnesota's been playing well down the stretch, but God, like I really wish Virginia Tech hadn't made a bowl game. Like if I'm being completely honest, like I'm so done with this iteration of the Hokies that I don't want any part of it.
I wish Virginia was here instead.
Yeah, exactly. I wish the Whoopsie Daisy King was still in Charlottesville and that we were getting Anthony Colandrea in this game.
Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, give me Minnesota like considerably, and
Yeah.
the cascading mayonnaise is going to go all over PJ Fleck's dome and sweater vest, and he will do it. I think he'll do it.
Oh, he'll absolutely do it. Like he absolutely strikes me as the type of guy who obviously with the sweater vest and everything, like he's super buttoned up and super weird, but like he's also like I do think PJ Fleck is one of the boys. Like I absolutely do believe that in my heart of hearts.
Yes, he'll do anything to motivate people.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's what I'm all about. And the last one here, we got the Bahamas Bowl between Buffalo and Liberty on the 4th. That one would be stuck because we're maybe be stuck in Nassau.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Bahamas Bowl used to be like one of the first bowl games, right? Why is it
Yeah,
the last one this year besides the College Football Playoff? I don't understand what's happening.
I don't either. I have no feel for this game. Give me Antonio is just going to be dressing like he's going in a Hawaiian shirt, like he's Andy Reid. The biggest thing for me is give me Pete Limbo with Ooze Fest with Buffalo.
Oh,
I'm going Buffalo.
100%. No, I'm gonna go Buffalo and Pete Limbo as well in this one, just because like I didn't think Liberty was all that good to begin with this season, and now you don't have Caden Salter. He's obviously on his way to Colorado. Like I don't see much happening for the Flames in this one.
No, put the Flames out there, and we're going rolling, 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 rolling with some Buffalo there. And there's a 0% chance a Buffalo has ever been in Nassau before, just walking around.
I'm gonna give it a 0.1% chance. You never know.
And I'm going to give this a 0.1% chance that you've never seen an episode like this. Yes, this was episode 139 of False Start. I'm doing a really bad job of remembering the times. Also, it's a time of year where
That's
nobody
a
knows
that's a
what day.
weekly struggle for me, so I can't fault you at all.
Yeah, we have no idea what day it is. I think it's a Monday, but it feels like a Friday. I don't know what day it is anymore. But
No,
yeah, but
no.
you can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Oh my God, we got a present. It's a 5-star review. I was like, I don't know what's in there. It's probably going to be a hand, but it might have been something else. Yes, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts really helps the show. If you have any questions, let us know if you subscribed on YouTube. We love to give you a shout out. You guys have done a great job of consuming our content. We love to hear from you. Season's kind of slowing down a little bit, so Cody and I will have a brain. We're going to have more exciting new things with Fall Start here in the new year, but we got to get through the playoff first.
Got to get through the playoff, but we appreciate y'all, and we'll trust me, we'll be with you throughout the playoff. Like we're not going anywhere. We'll be with you through the playoff, after the playoff. We got draft content coming down the line. We've got more transfer portal talk, and general ridiculousness. I think is a really good way to describe what our off-season content looks like.
General ridiculousness. That was Antonio's West Point name, wasn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, salute.
Be all that you can be, Antonio. And this is Fall Start.